Hey y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life Tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and as always, y'all know I'm hyped. I'm so elated. I can find like 20 other adjectives to express my gratitude, but also my excitement and my enthusiasm for you showing up on this stop of the tour. I do not take you showing up lightly. If this is your first time, welcome to the Get My Life Tour. If this is your umpteenth time tuning in, welcome back. Thank you for taking to the stage in your life and practicing vulnerability with me. I am so hyped, okay, about this stop on the tour because there is an incredible woman who is doing the work that so many of us long for in our childhood. And I'd like to say it's helping a lot of us heal our inner child, regardless if we're working through that in therapy, if we're working through that by playing and having fun, or if we're doing that through parenting. I have none other than Dr. Lisa Williams, okay? The creator, the founder, the CEO of Fresh Dolls. Okay, now let me tell you something because I collect dolls. I have been getting my life, and then I had this incredible woman put in front of me who I've read about before all over. I mean, so many publications have documented this woman's work. And I was like, wait, you want to take to the stage with me? Say what now? And she said yes. And so help me welcome Dr. Lisa to the Get My Life tour.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I could not be more excited. Can you see my cheeks? They got like little spasms.
Yes, mine
I've
too.
been
I was
like
like, whoa.
smiling so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I cannot thank you enough for being here and for creating the beauty and the joy that you have in this world for us. Thank you.
Truly my pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh my. Okay, so I could go on and on because people are in love with you and they love covering you, featuring you, and you have this incredible website, right, where people will go after this and purchase 2 million of your products, right? But let people know, who is Dr. Lisa Williams in your own words?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that incredible introduction. I am actually this quirky, nerdy student from Toledo, Ohio, who
Toledo,
loved
Ohio.
Toledo, Ohio. I'm a Midwestern girl.
I love it.
And like I said, I have a sister, and we work together now. She's a part of the company, but I'm really just this. I know people think I'm very lively, and I am because I love interacting with people, but I'm actually almost kind of a pseudo, I don't want to say recluse, that's a little too strong, but I'm definitely an introvert. And most people don't know that about me. They think I'm an extrovert, but actually I'm not. And I just love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. No matter how hard every day gets, I love it. And I want to do it again the next day.
You know, I love how you lead with that. I love what I do, no matter how hard the next day gets. I saw something, and it was something someone posted on social media. I think it was like yesterday. And it said, when you get tired, don't quit, rest.
Mm.
And you saying that reminded me of that because so many of us have these interesting moments in life where we experience that hardness, those challenges. And even though we love what we do, we get to that point where it's like, hands up, all right, bowing out respectfully. What keeps you from going there in the work that you do, especially in such a male dominated, Eurocentric industry producing and manufacturing dolls?
Well, you are so kind, but I'll tell you, even though I love what I do and every morning I wake up energized and excited about it, there have been many days that I said, that's it, I'm done. Lord, I give it to you. I'm out. I have given it my all. I've given it my time, my intellect, my money, finances, retirement. I've given it all. I'm done because it's not working. And what I found is when I do that, when I surrender, it's amazing how then literally God or another power steps in and things happen that I could not have planned or foreseen or orchestrated. Things just happen. And so, because of that, I know that I am just a part in this divine orchestration of creating these dolls for our children. It is me and it's my small team, but it's also the fans. We call them our fresh family because they're our family, and they help us to make sure that we are addressing their questions and their desires. Because what we want to do is give the fresh family what they want and what children and grandparents and aunts and uncles have been asking for, not just years, not just decades, but generations. So it is, I do feel that we are doing something quite magical on this planet right now with what we're doing in terms of showing BIPOC children and adults how amazing they are, their skin tone, their facial features, everything. I want them to know that they have incredibly gorgeous faces, skin tones, and features. And I want to show that back to them when they're playing. So yeah, I do feel it's something that I was actually put on this planet to do. And I'm honored that I get to do it, but it's not easy. It is certainly not easy.
Yeah, that right there is so golden. It's not easy. I remember you sharing with me that you started your business with some of these, not the commas, but the zeros. And I was like, how? How? But so many of us have to make something out of nothing. What was that process like, right? Believing in yourself, mustering up the faith. You sound like an incredible woman of faith, right? And actually putting your resources in the lack of your resources and turning that into energy to invest in your company.
You know what? That's what it was. It was lack of resources. And I do what so many other entrepreneurs do when we don't have funding. So I use my credit cards first. So I maxed out the credit cards. After I maxed out the credit cards, I went to friends and family. After I had exhausted my welcome with them, then I went and started taking money out on my house. And I will say, when I say things are difficult, they are and they were, because in all of that, I did lose my home in creating this company. But, you know, even when I look back at that and I said, would I have done it differently? I would not have done it differently. It was hard. Like I said, I lost my house, and my family and I, we all had to find somewhere else to live. And so it wasn't an easy journey. There was a time when I was a professor, I was making really good income. And so I was driving around in really nice luxury cars. But when I decided to start EPI, all that went by the wayside. I literally gave or sold a, excuse me, a $90,000 car and bought a $1,500 car with no air conditioning. So I was riding around, but that's what I had to do. Now, other people's journey is different, but I didn't have any money or any grants or anything like that. So I had to do it, you know, from my own resources.
Right. Wow. Like, wow. Right. In my reporting journalistically, like I know the 0.02% of, Black women who receive funding is a very real thing. So to know that you were exhausting resources, but you believed in yourself, that's the story that a lot of people don't talk about, right? The 90,000 to the $1,500 car. I think we hear the word sacrifice a lot in business, but we don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it's like to go from, a Mercedes Benz. I don't even know what kind of car it was. I
It
don't
was a
know.
Mercedes. That's exactly
Was
what it
it?
was.
Oh my goodness. Was it G Wagon? Because I want one of those so badly.
I loved it.
I'm like, you know what? Like, this is how I am, Dr. Williams. I'm like, you know what? Actually, so I want to talk about sacrifice, but I also want to talk about the fact that I legit won a G Wagon one day, and I will never forget having a conversation in orientation. They're like, so let's talk about your dream goals and this and what kind of car you drive. I was like, I'm going to have two G Wagons, one out commuting, the other. And they were like, Lydia, how? And I was like, good question. But I'm actually still working towards one of those, right? But in due time. But in all seriousness, right? The sacrifice. What was it like making those decisions, but also communicating with others who would be impacted by the decisions you had to make as you invested in your dreams?
It was a journey. It was a journey with me first because I didn't know anything about the toy industry. I mean, real quick, let me just give you kind of how I got into this. So I was the first African American to graduate with a PhD from the Ohio State University. And then I went on to get tenure. I was the first African American female to get tenure at Penn State University in Pennsylvania. And then I became the highest ranking professor in the field, be it male, female, black, white, yellow, orange, purple. I was the highest ranking person in my field. I had not one, but two multi-million-dollar endowed chairs. So I laid that out for you to say that was my world. And that's what I knew. And I knew how to do research, and I'd won teaching awards. I knew how to do that. But one afternoon, I was sitting at home watching, kind of mindlessly watching television, and CNN did an updated study on the doll study. And we're all familiar with the doll study from the 50s and 60s, right? Yeah. Where all these beautiful Black children were like, they didn't want to play with the black doll. The black doll was ugly. The white doll was pretty, et cetera, et cetera. And we understand that because this is, we're almost in Jim Crow again, but that was during Jim Crow era. So it was understandable that our children felt that way. So when they updated the study, I actually expected them to say something different, because by this time we had celebrities that were on the cover of magazines, had their own talk shows, TV shows. We had an African-American president, beautiful first lady. So I'm thinking, okay, this has changed. But sadly, it hadn't. And one beautiful Black little girl said she didn't want to play with the black doll because the black doll's skin was nasty. And then she touched her own hand as to indicate that her hand was nasty. And to this day, that still breaks my heart. And so it was that day that I decided to start the toy industry, go into the toy industry and start doing these dolls. Now, keep in mind, not only did I not have any money, as we just talked about, I had no background, I had no experience, I had no mentoring, I had no role models. I just saw this little girl on television that had a really warped and distorted sense of who she was and how beautiful she was, that I wanted to show her the truth of who she was. And so I embarked on this journey. And there were many days when people told me, of course, that I couldn't do it, I shouldn't do it. Why would you leave a position where you're the highest ranking person in your field? You only work 9 months out of the year, 2 days a week. That's what professors' schedule is. Why would you leave all of that and walk into something completely uncertain without any guarantee of income into an area you don't know anything about, and there's no one here to help you? But it was that little girl who told all of us that her skin was nasty by how she pointed to her hand when referring to her doll. So it was a hard journey, and a lot of it I knew that I could do what I set my mind to do because I had done it in the academic field. But this was different. And I did believe I could accomplish goals, but there were times that I did have a lack of personal faith in me because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm meeting with factories in China. I'm like, what am I doing in China? I can't even tell people where I am. I'm meeting with retailers. I'm like, how do you have a meeting, a buyer meeting? How do you create a doll? Where do you start? Where's the book to read about it? And being that I was a researcher, I always did the research. Read the books. Well, in this case, there wasn't really a book out there about how to create a truly authentic African-American doll. Right. So I had to learn, and I stubbed my toe a lot of times.
I feel that book coming. I'm just going to say it. I'm like, is that book coming? I feel it coming. I don't know. You putting it out there. I see that smile. I'm like, that would be an incredible book. I'm thinking about the countless women I know who collect dolls, right? Those of us who've made the paper dolls or sewn dolls. I have this beautiful doll that my grandfather gave me before he transitioned. I had a doll made by a woman in Greensboro, North Carolina, who actually used to auction her dolls off to fundraise for Bennett College. And I'm thinking about all the people who would want to get their hands on that book, whether they wanted to manufacture something of their own or just learn, from us, what that process is like, from Dr. Williams, what your process is like. To know that you've done that work is astonishing, because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to just trust themselves, trust and believe, and have the faith to go and do that kind of research. My hat is off to you.
Oh, thank you. it was a tough journey. And I did learn a lot about myself in doing it. I learned that I was a lot tougher than I thought. I learned that I can survive when someone slams the door in my face, say, no, go away. I can survive really in embarking on something that I literally have nothing, that I know nothing about except a passion. Right? Because what are dolls made out of? I didn't know. Is it vinyl? Is it plastic? Is it porcelain? What are their hair made out of? How do you get the right skin tone? How do you make a face? You know, how do you make sure the body's reflective? How do you make sure that the clothes are trendy but not over sexualized? I mean, it was a lot of things that I had to learn. That's about the business aspect of creating the doll. But then there's the business of it, right? Like, how do you establish your business? How do you make sure your taxes are paid? How do you get your business license? How do you get your insurance for liability? I mean, there are a lot of things that I was trying to figure out on my own because I didn't know. But that passion that we just talked about, it's what kept propelling me forward. And it what keeps propelling me forward even to this day.
Okay. So I'm sitting back on the couch because you're blowing me away. And I have like this two-part question based on what you just said. Okay, so let me not get too excited to the point where I forget, because this is what happens to me. I don't know what that's called. I'm just going to say it's my thing, right? Okay. So there's so much that you learned, right? Being able to survive, doors being shut in your face. But I would love to know what else you learned about yourself, right? I can only imagine learning what it takes to create a doll and putting it together so that you could create something that looks like you, but also something that empowers the people who are impacted by what you create. And then, what was my second part, Lydia? I got so excited. There it goes. That's what I was just telling you about. Oh, Lord, they know here on the Get My Life, so they're like, Lydia, stick with it, right? Write it down, right? But let's just stick with that, right? What was that process like? Creating something for you in those self discoveries, but also creating something that would empower others. There weren't many things that I could look to as a child. I remember the Kenya doll. My dad was very intentional about giving me big baby dolls so that they weren't hypersexualized. And my sister got to play with other dolls because she's 3 years older. So you've put a lot of thought into this, a lot.
Yes. It's important to me. This is like, it's in many ways, it's like a ministry. It's what I do. And what I pray that in addition to leaving my children here, that I will leave this legacy and that I'll be able to say, on my deathbed, I did something good for the world. At least that's my highest intention, is to do something good for the world. And I think that these dolls do that because regardless of what age you are, even if you're, 3 or 303, it's something about seeing a doll that looks like you that just makes you feel good. You look, oh, look at her face, look at that skin tone, look at those eyes. And then you reflect back on your face, skin tone, and eyes. So it's a naturally uplifting creation. And then I am literally creating from my heart. And so, as I said, I haven't gone to school for any of this. This is all from my heart, what I believe that children 3 to 103 deserve. And when you were asking me about what I learned to trust myself. Because see, when I first started, again, I didn't know anything. And so I was willing to take anyone's advice. But I found out that at the end of the day, I have to do the doll that I think is going to represent our beauty in the most uplifting and powerful way. And then I have to learn that I had to stand up. There are a lot of times that I did interact with major companies and they would try to tell me how to do this doll line and how I was spending way too much money and way too much detail. And that, the African-American doll community, they'll buy anything. You don't have to spend this much time. You don't have to do a unique sculpt or a unique body. Just pick anything that's out there and put brown paint on it and people will buy it. But that wasn't the vision that I had. When I saw that little girl on that television show saying that the doll skin tone was nasty, that was life-changing. It wasn't about continuing to do the same thing over and over again. I wanted to give her something truly authentic, representative, and beautiful for her. So it did mean starting over. And that did mean that I had to trust myself and not what I was seeing, what other people were telling me, which was just do it the way everyone else has done it. You're making it way too hard. You're spending way too much money. You're not going to make money in it the way that you're doing the business. Do it this way. But I didn't. And it's not that money isn't important to me, because obviously for the longevity of the company, it has to be profitable. But never in any day that I've ever done the world of EPI or the fresh dolls, never has money been the number one driving force. Never. The driving force is that little girl and now that little boy that's sitting on the floor that I imagine every morning playing with our dolls. And what is the thing that I can give him or her to uplift them, let them know who they are, how powerful, how brilliant they are, and create a sacred space for them. So whether they're having backpacks or lunch boxes, if they're doing that anymore, I want them to see themselves reflected back. And so I take what I do incredibly serious and I take it to heart. And so we do, not only are our dolls different, but our process about why we create them and what we do to create them is also different.
I am smiling ear to ear because what you are creating matters so much, and your heart and your intention behind your business, creating joy, creating opportunities for us to see ourselves. You just talked about sacredness. And what has come to me is that being able to see ourselves is sacred.
Yes. Yes.
In this society, so many people push us out. They don't want us to know who we are. They don't want us to be great. They don't want us to see ourselves. It is much easier for us to have low self-esteem because that's so profitable.
Yes.
Right? We'll buy into this, invest that way, become self-destructive, and that's easier for us to, be on that pipeline. You are empowering so many people globally to see themselves. And what I appreciate about you, what I really appreciate about Black women is that as much as we hold sacred to ourselves, my belief is that because we are divine, because we are mother, we don't just get to look out for ourselves. And there's still enough for us. Right? I say it all the time. I'd be so mad if I was not a Black woman. Oh my gosh. Right? But you are so thoughtful. Like you say, BIPOC or BIPOC. I am horrible with acronyms. Please forgive me. But you have thought intently about others who are often overlooked as well. When that has not been the societal norm or standard, especially in the toy industry. Why?
The toy industry is like most industries. It's based upon revenue generation and money. And so if they see a particular economic group or demographic group that is perceived to be growing in size and it has green to spend, then you'll start to see toys and things migrate in that direction. And I think that's good, because anywhere we can see more of ourselves reflected, I'm happy. I'm thrilled everywhere I see it. But I do think that there is a difference when something is created to generate revenue and money versus something that's created to uplift and inspire. I think there's a difference. I think they can be the same, right? I think you can create something that's designed to be inspiring, to uplift and show people who they really are. And if you do it well, people will vote for you with their dollars. So there is a way of blending both. But most times, the dollar leads. And when the dollar leads, the product lacks something. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have feelings. It's just some vinyl. But what we try to do is we really do focus on why. Why are we doing this? That little girl and that little boy deserves the absolute best, the best of our genius, the best of our time, the best of our resources. They deserve that. And so we put that into our products. And I think that when people say they see a difference in our products, I think that's what they see. They see the love and the commitment. I mean, and it's like you said, Lydia, we're doing something to heal generational lack and generational hurt, right? Because for so long, I mean, we can go back to 1619, right? Because before then, we knew we were kings and queens. So that was right. That was very clear. But during 1619, when we were migrated over here in slave ships, obviously that was literally beat out of us. And there's no time in history where it's been poured back. It was just removed, beat, removed. And then it was replaced with, you're not good, you're not pretty, your lips are too big, your skin is too black, your hair is too curly, all of these being negative aspects. And so now what we're trying to do is say, that was all not true. That was all a big lie. The truth of the matter is, we're the mothers and the fathers of the planet. We are beautiful, and all people are. I'm not saying one group is more, we're all beautiful. And that's why we represent so many different ethnicities in our dolls. But it's to make sure that when you're looking at a doll that looks like you, or looks like your niece or a friend, that you see the love in that item and that you are drawn to it, that there's something about it that you're drawn to pick it up. And I think, again, from our perspective, it's because we're not driven by money. We're driven by that feeling. I want people, when they look at our dolls, to go like, ooh, oh, she looks like me. Oh, she looks like my niece or my cousin or my best friend or the little girl I go to school with. I want there to be a relatedness with what we're creating. Because if you can relate to it, then again, you can start to imbibe the truth of who you are, which is you are magnificent. And if you get that, then your life is just on tilt. I mean, it's just lit for what you can create in your life. And not only in your life, but those in your community and in your family. And by doing so, we uplift society. So that's how I view what we do. It's a way of uplifting society. We even call it the fresh movement. And what we mean by that is we are uplifting and bringing joy around the world.
I love it. Come on, fresh movement. Now you then drop the mic, Dr. Williams. Okay, and I really hope that everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit and ear heard what you said, right? The Get My Life Tour is such an interesting space because so many people come here to hear the real from those who are making incredible moves, right? But yes, this is about the how through, but I really appreciate the gems that are dropped, the mic drop moments in between where something is business related, but it's also like a life lesson. And correct me if I'm misquoting you, but what I heard you say was that when the revenue, or when you lead with the revenue, the product lacks.
Yes.
Like I'm like, wait a second. So many of us are focused on the dollars and cents, but not the essence of what it is that we are doing. And I don't think a lot of us realize that's why what some of us touch doesn't prosper, right? Because we're not really tending to our gardens, or being honest about the intention, or we're just doing it for the money. Like that right there. I hope somebody got that. I just got that. And I'm like, wow, right? I'm not even selling anything, but I'm just like, wow, when you lead that way, the product lacks. And I'm just thinking about so many things that have been on the market. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they haven't figured it out yet. But I think that's a mindset that you have to have.
Yeah, it is a mindset. It is, because the money will come, but if you're focused on the money, it will come, but it won't give you the satisfaction. Just looking at numbers in a bank account, after you get to a point where you have enough to take care of yourself, you're not living in your car. You're not homeless like I was. When I say homeless, I want to be careful because there have been truly people who have been homeless. I have not been homeless like that, but I have definitely lost my house and had to move into a very small apartment with my family. But if I was leading by money, then I would have stopped. It's okay, I need to go back to teaching or I need to get another job. But it's because I always believed that what I and we were doing was so powerful that if I didn't create those products for those children, who was going to do it? And so there were days, and I think I alluded to that I would go to bed saying, I'm done. Lord, I've given it all. I've done everything you've asked me to do. It's just not working. It's okay. I'm glad for the journey. I'm glad the people that I met. I'm glad the experiences that I have, but I'm done. I've had it. And then I would go to bed, Lydia, done, completely done, over. It's complete. And I'd wake up in the morning and got something. There's an email. Somebody wants to talk to you. You've been given an award. Someone places a big order. Something that just says, okay, well, Lord, I'll give it one more day.
Look,
And that
miracle
day turns
signs
into
and
another
wonders.
year. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's inspiring. Keep going,
Keep
right?
going.
It's not easy.
No.
That's why it's so important for us to have these how through conversations, right? I don't know what someone is creating, but maybe that was a miracle. Maybe that was a sign. Maybe that was a wonder to keep going. You know, Dr. Williams, you are so dynamic. I really want to talk to you about fun, right? We don't have enough playtime in our lives. I am playing more now than ever. I used to love playing as a kid. I was outside. I was like a part-time tomboy. I have the scars on my legs that my father
Me
like
too.
tried to avoid so much to prove it. Like I was wild, right? I felt like in these streets had a different meaning in childhood, right? But I was like outside. Now these kids are like glued to screens. So I love that you have dolls, right? Because they can play, touch, see, and feel and see themselves. But I have to ask you, how important is play in your everyday life?
I love that question. I will say, I need more play.
Okay.
Anyone who knows me would say, you need more play. But because I love what I do, this is my play. I'm looking at my babies who are around me, all of my little girls. They are my play. And so they're right here on my desk. I'm trying to get you one real quick so you can see. So they're here and I get to play with them. But even when I'm not working, just see if you can see one.
Look,
Even when
come
I'm
on
not
with this
working,
sweater and these afro puffs.
okay.
So bad, man. Oh my goodness.
But even if I'm not working, if I'm not going to work, I find out that I'm working because I
Mm.
love to do it. If I'm like, just saying, you're not going to work, you're just going to veg out and, binge watch television or whatever. About a couple hours in, it's like, oh, I bet I could take that doll and do this and add another, and I can do a ginger doll, or I can do, it's just, I'm always working, but not from I gotta go to work. I'm just so tired of working. No, it's like, I'm always so enthusiastic about what ideas are coming forth from the divine to me to execute in this world in terms of creating these dolls. So my fun, I do fun. I have family fun. I have friends fun. We definitely, my girlfriend and our best friend, we do a lot of, we try to do even more, but girls' night out. So we can
Yes,
hang and let our hair down and have a really good time. But I also have fun every day when I'm working.
I love it. Being able to do what you love feels rare at times, right? Some people punching in, punching out, nothing wrong with that, okay? Or trying to figure out their entrepreneurial journey or just create and be able to experience joy. But a lot of us, I too have been there, have experienced lovelessness in our work. And it does lead to dissatisfaction. So I'm so glad that you get to play. I'm so glad that you get to enjoy what you do and it's not chorus. I've learned that a lot of people become discouraged from pursuing what they love because they have this idea that they're automatically going to fall out of love with it. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that because as soon as I start doing it, oh, no, I'm not going to want to do it anymore. I'm like, what? Well, how do you know? How do you know? Right? Beyonce,
Right.
how do you know? And so I love that. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be surrounded by dogs. It has always been a dream of mine. There was this woman on my block. What was her last name? Was she Miss Cavness or Miss Jackson? Yes, okay. I'm like Lydia. Don't disclose all their family information as I try to remember. But she lived next door to my mother's parents, and she took pride in her doll collection. She had vintage Barbie dolls. She had black dolls from all over, and they were arranged in her dining room. So when you opened her door, she would always let us come in and just look like this. And times she would let us come in and we could look but not touch. She was so serious about keeping these dogs in case, and I can only imagine if her family has them now what they're worth. But I remember her taking pride in like her black dolls. I was like, oh my gosh, where did she get all these dolls from? And she was an older woman. She was a grandmother, and that was the 90s. God bless her heart if she's transitioned by now. But, being able to take pride in collecting dolls, seeing yourself, I can only imagine what people feel when they're surrounded by the fresh dolls, right? What are some of the feedback that you've received since doing your work?
Oh, the best ones is when, okay, there are two that I love. So one is when the little girls and boys see the dolls and they rush up to them and they're like, mommy, mommy, look, the doll looks just like me. That like just makes my day. But then what usually happens after that is that the parents come or the grandparents come with them and they come up to me and they're crying. I'm talking not just a little dab, dab. No, I'm talking face wet onto your shirt, wet, crying, and such gratitude because they know that they didn't have it. I remember one woman telling me I was at the Essence Festival and she came up to me and she was crying. As I said, that cry all onto your sweater she had on. And she was just thanking me because she was saying that she had so many issues with being Black and having beautiful, gorgeous, dark skin tone, but she didn't see that. And so she grew up with a low self-esteem. And she's like, I'm so glad you have these dolls. So now that my baby won't have to go through what I did. Oh,
I love that.
And then I've met therapists who come to me and so grateful that there are dolls that they get to use in their therapy with children to, again, to show them who they are and have them act out their feelings through the fresh dolls. So there's just so many things that just gives my heart so much joy to know that we're making a difference. And even older people, I'll tell you this, we said that I had a parent, actually it was a daughter who had buried her mom. Oh, this touches me too. And she said, we buried our mom with her fresh dolls because she loved them and she carried them around with her all the time as she got older. And she believed that those dolls were her babies and she kept them with them. So she says, we buried her with her dolls. Excuse me. So those are the things that, like I said, when it gets hard, I remember those. I remember the children that were so happy to see the dolls and said it looks like them. I remember the mother who came up to me crying, and the therapist who's so happy, and the daughter who was just so honored and happy to have her mother love the dolls and bury them with her. So there's all of those stories just really make me feel good, purposeful.
You are moving mountains. You are shifting culture.
We are doing it together. That's why you keep hearing me say we and I and the Fresh family, because I do nothing alone. If I didn't have that, if that little girl hadn't said what she did on that CNN show on the doll study, I would have never done this. So she and I were in it together. And then as I moved through, and then there were the retailers who said, yes, we'll take, we'll definitely have the fresh dolls or positively perfect, which is what I started with. Yeah. So they joined in. And then the Fresh family came along and they started saying, hey, well, what about a doll that moves? What about a doll with articulation? So all of us do it together. And I'm just so grateful that I get to be on this journey with such amazing and magnificent people, all of us with one single mission in common. And that is to make the world a better place through play. And I'm glad to be a part of that movement. And there are just so many people that join in with me on this. And now you, Lydia.
Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness. Make the world a better place with play, through play. Like, we need more playtime.
Yes.
We learn so much about ourselves. I've learned so much about myself. Letting go.
Yes.
Being free. Playing. No, it's just play. Play. I don't know who needs to hear this. Play. Schedule in some playtime. I roller skate. Oh my goodness, I love skating.
Oh, you roller skate?
Oh, I love it. And I was a pre-pandemic roller skater. Like, I'm on my second pair of skates, or maybe my third, technically, because I had some in childhood as well. I love just being outdoors. I am a goofball, which is hard for some people to believe. I'm like, I just want to play. I love a good, corny pickup line. Like, I just want to have a good time. So many of us have forgotten what it's like to feel that kind of joy, to feel those endorphins and get, lifted. I don't want to say high, right? But feel elevated in that way Right? Don't get high. Just go outside and play. Okay. Somebody probably needs to hear that too, right? You need more playtime. Okay. Dr. Lisa, you you are like, if you could see my hand right now, like you are like, oh my gosh, you are so necessary. Your faith speaks volumes. Your transparency, your ability to be vulnerable and share, what this journey has been like for you. I'm so grateful, right? Because sometimes we just see the finished product and we're like, oh, that's so cool. Someone thought of us. But you don't know what that person has been through and what it took for them to create, to be told no, to not have all the resources, but still be pursuing, be resilient, and get products on the shelf so that so many of us can have different experiences. Like, you are magical.
Oh,
You
Black girl
are.
magic right back at you.
Yes, I receive it. Okay. I can't believe we're almost at the end of the shopping tour. I'm like, you will not go anywhere. I'm keeping you hostage. But I had to ask you for advice, for others who are ideating, who are researching, who are creating, and those who are executing, regardless if they're like the established, the aspiring, or the emerging. What advice do you have for them? And it could be anything, um, while they are on their journey, as someone who has made it. Okay, you have made it. I love it. I'm here for it. Okay, but what advice do you have for us?
First thing I would say is to know your why. Because if you don't know your why, then you'll give up. And as we talked about briefly, if why is going to be money, that really isn't long enough to sustain you. You'll do it a little bit, but then as soon as you say, "Oh, I don't see how this is really going to make you," you're out. So, but if you know what your why is, and your why is something that's going to touch your life, your family's life, and touch the world, meaning if it's going to make other people's lives better, that's the why that will sustain you. See, I actually believe business is being in of service to others. Like I said, to me, it's like a ministry. You are in service. So know your why. That's number one. And then number two, just know that when you are doing something for the betterment of humanity, there's going to be a power that is going to come in. It's going to support and elevate what you want to do. You won't know where it's coming from. You won't know when it's coming, but just trust that there's going to be support for you along the way. Because when something is designed by the divine and it's orchestrated by him, her, it's going to succeed. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean it's going to succeed. So know your why and then trust that everything you need will show up. Don't try to search for it in advance. Don't try to figure out the how, because the how is going to get you distracted. So the why is important, and stay in the moment, I guess, is the other thing I'd say. It's very important not to try to figure out again, how am I going to get that money? How am I going to find those people? How am I going to get into this retail store? Why am I doing this? And then the how will show itself to you. But stay in the moment. Don't try to even figure out what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. Stay right here today. Do you have everything you need today? Yes. Can you make your product today? Yes. Okay, then do that. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
The stay in the moment part. Mm. Being present. I feel like sometimes that's a foreign request. I'm like, you
So
want me to
that's
be
a foreign
here?
request. I love it.
I do. It's so hard at
It's
times.
very hard.
And I feel like this is something that comes up a lot here on the Get My Life Tour, being present. I've talked about it. So many incredible people have taken center stage, but it's hard. And I'm so glad it is something that comes up time and time again, because I gotta do this. Oh, what's next? Okay, so if I just and we run ourselves crazy thinking about what is next. Be present. Trust your why. You know, I always feel like each stop on a tour is just for me. And I know it's for everybody else, right? Like, I'm not even selfish, but I'm like, you saying those things as I continue to tend to my garden here on the East Coast, just do my work, show up, produce this podcast. I'm like, wow, the resources will present themselves. Like, just trust. You're speaking to me. You're speaking to my spirit. I'm listening. I'm receiving. And I'm so excited about the way that what you're sharing is going to speak to other people as well. Because sometimes we just need those reminders. It's like, oh, I've heard that. You're hearing it again for a reason. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that to be true. So I'm just expressing my gratitude right now because I'm like, this is so on time. So timely. Okay, I'm not gonna let you go just yet because I'm like, okay, I'm looking at time and I'm like, take your time, but don't waste your time. Okay, let me get this in though. What keeps you rooted in your work, and how do you take care of yourself as you create?
Wow, those are perfect questions. And I don't say that I get them right all the time, but what keeps me rooted? That was a really powerful question. It's the why, like I said before. I do believe that this is why I was placed here. I do believe that this is a part of my ministry of making the world a better. And I'm not a minister. So when I say ministry, I just mean what I'm led to do.
Right.
I believe this is a part of it. And so because of it, I do a lot of surrendering. I mean, I do what I can do. I meet with the people I'm supposed to meet with. Like you said, I stay present, right? Like I do that. I show up in meetings. I do what I'm supposed to do. But I know that at the end of the day, it's not my company. It's not me. It's not me. There's something much bigger than me that's an orchestration that's actually happening here. And it moves through me, but it's not from me. If that kind of makes a little bit of sense. It's bigger than me.
Sense. Yeah.
Okay. It's bigger than me. So when it's bigger than me, a lot of it I watch and I move in the direction that is laid out for me. Because one path will be very easy. One path will be challenging. One path will be just so against my belief system and my philosophy that it's easy. That might be the one that looks like it's going to be the most prosperous in terms of finances. But in order to get in that lane, I got to give up something of myself. So that's easy. That's not the avenue for me to go. It may be another one that allows me to hold on to my integrity and to do it, but it doesn't look like it's going to be as profitable. That's the way I'm going, because my why, again, is to uplift the world through positive play. And so I believe that what I'm instilling in these dolls is affecting people's lives. And so I'm very careful about what I do and who I partner with because of that. And you're right, staying in the moment, staying present, that's it. And through this journey, I will say I created this company and I'm so grateful to God for it. But really what God gave me is me. I know more about myself now than I ever did. I know I'm a child of God. I know that there's a power that's orchestrating everything in my life and your life. I know that we are connected by this divine life, this divine orchestra. I know that. And how did I know that without a doubt? Because I went through this journey of creating EPI and the fresh dolls. That's how I learned it. Because you can theoretically know something, but unless you go through it, you don't know it. You read it, you heard about it. But once you go through it, then you know it. So because I've gone through those challenges we talked about, losing houses, losing cars, so many other things I lost. Since I've gone through that, I know God is a provider. How do I know that? Because he provided for me. How do I know God is somebody who expands your dreams? What? Because I just wanted to be a professor and teach children or adults. But God expanded that now. How did I know that I was supposed to run a global company? Because God has orchestrated that to happen. Did I do it? Did I sit down and write out a list when I was 3 or 30 for that matter and say, this is what I want to do? No, I didn't. I just followed my heart and I followed the direction that I felt that God was leading me in. And all of this came as part of that. So again, that's why that why is important. Trusting that everything you need is going to come forward and staying in the moment. Don't look too far out in in the week or the years. Stay right here.
It just keep blowing my mind. I'm just like, and then the self-care part.
Yes. Self-care is something I will acknowledge. I love to work because my work is my fun. I do have fun, as we talked about earlier, but my work is also my fun. So sometimes in the true definition of self-care, I fail. That's probably one thing I do need to work on is self-care and total honesty again. But what I do for self-care is that I take time to read. I take long showers and baths. I sip on wonderful tea, also wine. I love my red wine too. And I just really have great conversations with girlfriends, or read a really good book, or sometimes, as I said, I just binge in front of television, just watching something, that's entertaining, that doesn't require me to think. I'm just watching it. So all those things I do and journaling. Can't forget journaling. I also journal.
I love to journal. It's my jam. Hot drinks and journals. I'm like, let's do it. I'm here for it. It's so therapeutic just to get it out. And then to go back and see what happened, what was already written, and then what couldn't happen for your good. I'm like, okay.
And when you write, like you said, your dreams about this is what I would love for this to happen. And you write it and you forget about it. You go on by your life and, you, like you said, you open it up a year or two later and it's like, I don't believe this has happened.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
I've been there. I'm like, okay, just the grace, the favor. I'm like, oh, okay, the mercy too. I'm like, oh yes, save me. Okay. Okay, I thought that's what I needed. Look at him. Okay, get your life with you is what it's all about. Oh my goodness. You have shown up. You have showed out. You set standards, and I am just so grateful for this moment. I really am. Such a dynamic individual, such a dynamic conversation. And I can't believe it's time for you to drop the mic. I'm like, what I don't need you to do is to make me get up and shout and run around my apartment, okay? So let's, don't make me do that because I don't want to flip this water on my computer. But when you are ready, please drop the mic.
So dropping the mic is giving some advice that that I hope will be of help to other people. Is what
a favorite quote, anything that just is pressing on you, that's weighing on your heart. Feel free to have like your Obama out or your sexual chocolate moment and leave it all on the stage.
Okay. Well, you know what? There's something that comes to mind. I have many favorite quotes, many. I was going to give you one of my favorites, but I'm going to give you this, but this is the one I really want to share. And that is, excuse me, it is not I, but the Father within me that does the work. That's one of my favorite. And I say that every day, multiple times a day, because there's so many things that I don't have answers to. As CEO or as the leader of a company, people come to you for answers, but a lot of times you're like, I don't know, Lord, I don't know. So it is not I, but the Father within me who does the work. So that's one. But then the other one I want to leave with everyone is when you're leading or following your dreams, understand that those dreams are given to you and other people don't have to see it. And they don't have to co-sign your dream. You just have to know that it's for you to do. Because here's a quote, and it is that those that cannot hear the music think that those who are dancing are insane. So when you have a vision of something you want to do, that's your music. Dance to your music. Those who don't hear it, they might think you're insane, but that's okay. In due time, they'll be able to see the music that you have created. So don't let others discourage you if they can't hear your music. I think we've Lydia.
You did not lose me. I'm legit trying not to scream in everyone's ears. I'm so animated. This is me, Dr. Williams. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I love it.
I was legit trying not to scream. Like I have these moments of pause where I'm like, okay, Lydia, contain yourself. Like, where'd she go? I'm right here. I'm just really getting myself together. I love that. I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I'm taking that with me.
It just, it helps when you're doing something and everybody's like, you shouldn't do that. Oh, that's not going to work. That's going to fail. They can't hear my music, so they don't know. So I can say yes and I can nod, but don't let it dissuade me, because they can't hear my music, and those who can't hear the music think those that are dancing are insane. So it's okay.
Well, there you have it. Keep dancing.
Keep dancing. Yes, to your music. Keep dancing to your music.
Okay. Look, I'm about to dance some shoes out, okay? And bust a couple of scenes. Right? When you hear that rip, okay, I've made it. And so I love it. Okay, Dr. Lisa, you have to let people know how they can stay connected to you, where they can go purchase the fresh dolls, and more.
Oh, well, I would hope that people would want to become a part of the Fresh family. And it's behind me, thefreshdolls.com. Thefreshdolls.com. And then I have an Instagram, which I'm starting to get into. Instagram. And it's at the THEDR Lisa. So at the Dr. Lisa.
I love it. And as always, I encourage you to stay connected, really get plugged in. I am so excited about the resource that this stop on the tour is going to become for so many. But stay connected. Here's your opportunity, right? To actually be connected with someone who is doing the work, who shares freely about her journey and is inspiring us to do great things by reconnecting with ourselves through play. And as always, you can visit the getmylifetour.com, stay connected on social at the Get My Life Tour, and do the same, Lydia T. Blanco, or visit all of my social platforms. There's a lot out there, right? But beyond that, I look forward to hearing about what it is that resonated with you on this stop of the tour. I have gotten my life today. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lisa. And I hope that you have gotten yours. You know, I'm just so full. I'm like, okay, I'm full. Like, do I even need to eat? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna rest on this word. Okay. But this has been exactly what I've needed, and I hope the same for you. Until the next time, I look forward to taking center stage with you. Thank you for showing up. Be kind to yourself. It has been real. Peace.